Good morning, family. My brothers and my sisters, on August 6th of last year, I traveled to Negril, Jamaica for a small, intimate wedding of an acquaintance of mine. Unbeknownst to me, the time at which I was there in Jamaica happened to be the celebration of what the Jamaicans call National Day. It is the day that Jamaica declared her independence from the colonial rule of the United Kingdom. For 468 years, this beautiful and resourceful island had been under the exploitative rule of outside powers. And on August 6, 1962, after much rebellion and bloodshed, Jamaica finally broke free from the tyranny of Great Britain, only to become one of the most visited tourist destinations in the entire world. One day, while I was walking along the beach there in Negril, a native of Negril mysteriously approached me and started a conversation. I remember his words, and I hear them as if he spoke them to me on yesterday. He said to me in his thick Jamaican dialect, which I will not attempt to mimic, "You see all of these people dancing and drinking and celebrating? They have no idea what all of this is about. They have no idea that somebody had to suffer and die in order for them to enjoy this beauty. Nor do they recognize that the majority of them are the descendants of the people who are responsible for the enslavement, oppression, and suffering of my ancestors. So in a sense, when I welcome them, when I greet them, when I treat them nicely, I am accepting an apology on behalf of my ancestors that their ancestors never offered." He said, so that not only am I doing that, he said, but what they understand is this, that the very ones that did it to us had to come back through us in order to enjoy the splendor and the majesty of the land. He says to me, my brother, what they frivolously celebrate, I sincerely cherish. He suggested to me that while people are dancing about what they have no idea of, I rejoice for a different reason. I rejoice that because of all that I've been through and out of all that my people have endured, God did not allow it to break us so that we could not bounce back. I think I need to speak to somebody in here today to help you to understand that it has been the enemy's objective to use and abuse you to the point that he breaks you. But by virtue of the fact that you are here today, it would suggest that what the enemy used to break you down and to mess you up was really God using it to make you a better person. If I'm talking to anybody in here, wave at me and tell me to go ahead and preach. If I'm talking to anybody who's been through some hellacious situations, but instead of it killing you, it gave you more life. Instead of it destroying you, it delivered you into something better. Instead of it causing you to lose your mind, it gave you a mind to give God glory, honor, and praise when you look back at the thing that he brought you out of and say the devil tried it but God. And what the enemy meant for your evil, God He meant it for your good. If I'm talking to you, say yes, Lord. So my brothers and my sisters, I use that as a springboard into our discussion today, because the truth of the matter is, such is the case with the day that we call Easter. We have commercialized the event of the resurrection of Jesus. We have made the resurrection of Jesus about bunnies and eggs, about bonnets and new suits. We have made it about hairdos and nail fixings. But the truth of the matter is, his resurrection, watch this, is not about that stuff. The resurrection of Jesus Christ is more about what he does in you, so that you can become a better person in the life that you live. Somebody ought to shout, yes, Lord. My brothers and my sisters, the truth of the matter is that there can be no true appreciation for his resurrection unless there is true appreciation for his suffering. Let me say that again. You cannot appreciate the fact that he was resurrected until you can appreciate the fact that he suffered. You cannot appreciate the fact that he got up until you appreciate the fact that he went through some stuff to put him in the place that he was in the first place. Tell your neighbor, say, neighbor, we need to celebrate what he went through before we can celebrate the fact that he came out. There is nothing that bothers me more than people who cannot identify with my struggle. If you don't know my story, don't get excited about my glory. If you don't know what I had to go through to get here, don't you dare make yourself an expert on me while I'm here. I had to go through hell and high water, had to almost lose my mind, lost some friends, lost some sleep, lost some other stuff, lost some money, but through it all, God has been with me, and I really don't look like what the devil tried to put me through. Is there anybody in here who has the testimony that the you that your neighbor sees does not tell the whole story of what you've been through? You've had to cry, you've had to weep, you've had to moan, you've been without, you've been broke, you've been busted, you've been disgusted, you've been disappointed, you've been let down, you've been lied on, you've been ridiculed, you've been scandalized, but you're still here. Somebody ought to shout yes. There can be no true appreciation of resurrection unless there is an appreciation for suffering. You cannot appropriately celebrate the product unless you celebrate the process. It is in Philippians chapter 3, verse number 10, that the Apostle Paul gives, as it were, the thesis statement of every mature Christian, that I might know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. You cannot possibly know Jesus until you can identify with his suffering. You cannot possibly identify with God unless at some point in your life you have had to go through some experiences that made you realize that all you had was God. Am I talking to anybody in here? You cannot appreciate where you are until you tell the truth about where you've been. And where you've been has not been a bed of roses. Where you have been has not been a bed of ease. You have had just as many sleepless nights as you have had good nights. You have had as many trials as you have had triumphs. The truth of the matter is, since I got you in here, I may as well tell the truth. The truth of the matter is, the me that you see right now is a compilation
compilation and a composite of heavenly and hellish experiences. And so what you see now is nothing more than God cleaning me up, wiping my tears, and making me look better so that I can encourage you. Is there anybody in here who could tell your neighbor, if I gave you the mic, that neighbor, if you had just seen me about 15 days ago, you